us into the next thing when things don't go well.
Yes.
And that grace that we can give ourselves and our child. And just how do we move through those situations, first of all, when they're going on?
Yep.
And then how do we move through those things afterwards and learn from them? And also move on past them, not only as a parent, but to help our child to do that as well. I know that's some really big struggles because we can say, oh, play dates don't work, we're done, and then we can just isolate ourselves, which is not the right solution.
Right, absolutely not. And it can feel like something, it feels so bad when it goes wrong and you feel like you've done something wrong and you haven't. They're just learning. And you have to think of it as they are in the process of learning. This is learning happening right in front of me. It's kind of, it can be overwhelming. It can be kind of loud. It can be a little bit intimidating. Oh my goodness, they're hitting each other, you know? Yeah.
Well, if he's with his brother, he'd be doing the same thing. So
yeah, exactly. And so I always like to start with, like, if I'm hearing my child escalate, I like to go and I'm doing the whole listening and, you know, keeping my ear open and keeping my eyes sort of on them. So I'll go in and I just say, everybody freeze or everybody pause. And usually that's enough for people to like stop. Because especially the word pause or freeze, like it's almost like you can do it in even a playful way. And if you come in soon enough, they will stop. And then you sort of can separate them. So like, I always like to like sort of put a little distance between them and then do something calming, do a calming activity, try taking a few deep breaths together, you know, even taking deep breaths with your hand. So I love using 5 deep breaths with your hand. So you take your one index finger and you trace up the side of your thumb and you breathe in and then you breathe out and breathe in and breathe out. And then by the time you're all done, you've done 5 deep breaths. Some people call it mountain breathing. I'm trying to make sure my hand stays on the camera. And so that it's a great way to calm kids down to do something as simple as that, or even pretending your belly is a balloon and breathing in and expanding the balloon and then breathing out and contracting the balloon, or pretending like you're breathing, smelling a flower and blowing out birthday candles and really making the fist and making it seem like you are smelling a flower and making a candle and then blowing it out.
Yeah. Those are great visuals too, because I think you can use those at home with your child ahead of time so that they aren't like going, what is she talking about coming into this room, you know, and all this. And the other child, of course, is going to think that anyways, because they're not used to your parenting or what you do at home. But if their play date is going, oh yes, this is something that we do, they're more likely to engage in it as well.
Yeah.
And I love that, because oftentimes when we come into those situations, we want to try to solve the problem right away. That is not the right thing to do. I'm assuming by your answer that, you know, this is what we should do first. That is definitely not the right approach.
Well, because they're so heightened, they can't hear you. It's not a time. That's not the moment where they can hear and have a rational conversation. They are heightened. They cannot. It is not a rational moment to have that conversation. It's not that conversation won't happen. It'll happen later. But I always like to start with those calming activities. Even taking a cool sip of water can really, I mean, just even having the cool, that really can help calm angry kids down, or even like a cold compress on the back of their neck, playing with some ice, something to get them cooler and calmer to help de-escalate the heat of the moment, and actually using temperature, which I love to do.
That's amazing. I've never heard that before. It's definitely something to try.
And then also, I love calming jars. I'm obsessed with them. I have a ton of them at my house. So I always have them around, and I used to keep them around. My kids used to have, you know, several in their room, because I would always, you know, try a different one. Let's see what I do when I do with like stars that glow in the dark and paint and all this stuff. So they would have all these sorts of calming jars. And so that would be something, you know, I could have the calming jar swirl and then have the kids look at it and have them settle their mind as the glitter settles to the bottom of the jar. So all about calming.
Definitely. So we get them calm, and then we move on to.
Then if they seem like they are able to have a conversation, then do a quick debrief, sort of like ask each of them what happened, and then make sure that they each get a turn, give them each equal airtime to be able to say their piece, because I feel like, you know, kids want to be heard. They want to feel like somebody is listening to them. So as long as you give them that space, okay, this happened and this happened. And then, okay, we can talk about, oh gosh, you know, maybe that we don't put hands on each other. That's something that is a rule in our house. We don't put our hands on one another. So, and then making that next step to say, okay, so now what do we do? Now what's going to happen? And sometimes that means maybe that first activity didn't go well, so let's switch activities. I will sometimes have them switch from indoors to out. I will sometimes have them switch from upstairs to downstairs, anything to like give a new sort of a new space.
Yes, definitely. Because when you move, you tend not to associate then the situation that happened somewhere else. We're in a new space, and yes, definitely. That's great.
And then, you know, then I would continue to, you know, monitor, keep your eye out, keep your ear out, see what's going on, and notice if it's starting to escalate again. If it's starting to escalate again, then we need to step in and then maybe think about, you know, maybe this is one of those times where we need to sort of like call it a day sooner rather than later. And that is okay.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's a very good thing to remind parents of, that if we don't make it to the end of the lifetime, it wasn't not successful. We did as much as we could, and we're moving towards a goal, and any progress towards that goal is progress. And then we tend to forget that sometimes when we set more lofty goals than maybe the situation called for.
I know. And it's so hard because I know what it's like when you're setting up a play date and there's a lot of feeling and emotion behind it and you want it to go well, and then it really turns into a disaster. And that's okay. And that's life. And the best thing you can do is use it as a moment, maybe not then for your child, but later on, and then use it between the parents to be honest and to debrief with the parent, like, gosh, that happened. Goodness, let's see, you know, and just be upfront about it. Yeah, like this is what has happened. This is really challenging, and they're gonna be right there with you. This is